Now it is time for the very first group. Who is a member of the very first group? Okay, I don't know how you have organized yourselves, but all of you or some of you can come forward. Perhaps you want to show yourself as a group. And the question to everyone, including you now, is please stand on the black line. You can do it any way you like. I just want to instruct you and all the future speakers to stand on the black line. Please stand on the black line. So that it's good for the camera and the light and the sound. Whom may I hand the microphone to? All the best. Group number 1.
Okay. Okay, we are group number 1, and we on this workshop worked on healthy and future-proof neighborhoods in Drohobych. Where to point? Okay, it works. Okay, like short vision of what neighborhood is. It's when people are happy and they interact with each other if they want and don't interact if they don't want. So when we asked the local representative, the chief architect of Drohobych, what is the best about Drohobych, he told that people are the best in Drohobych. So neighborhood like is all about people. So here you see people in Drohobych. And what we choose as task for us is that, in fact, the concept of neighborhoods is not very common in Ukraine. Usually, we don't speak about neighborhoods. We know of something called districts or rayon and microrayon. Is this modernistic wave past Soviet times? And if we want to make a tradition to what we call neighborhood, we make a hypothesis that for this transition we need first to make tradition also in the spatial organization from roads and driveways into streets. So we have choose streets, like if the city is an organism and neighborhoods are organs of this healthy organism, then the cells of the city are urban quarters, groups of buildings and public spaces. So if we want healthy and future-proof neighborhoods, we need first to have this healthy cells. And next we define the street as essential part of having these healthy cells, because to have good quality urban quarters and groups of buildings, public spaces, we need that they need to be defined with well-organized and good-shaped streets. Once again, our hypothesis, streets are essential in forming healthy and future-proof neighborhoods because streets are at the same time shaping and defining the space and connecting, and making space for interaction between different people and processes. Why we decided to speak about such a trivial things as street, you may ask? The answer is that Drohobych has a very short pre-modernistic tradition, not short in time, but short in space. They have not very big city center, which was formed in traditional way with streets and urban quarters. And then the majority of the urban structure was formed in the modernistic tradition, with roads and driveways, not with streets. And so now in contemporary, in recent developments which happen in Drohobych, we see rather continuation of this modernistic tradition than continuation of this pre-modernistic traditional way of creating urban structure. And we ask ourselves what will be in the future. And our question is, how can we return streets to urban design and planning agenda in Drohobych? In order to cope with this task, we selected we identified 4 different types of urban environments in Drohobych, which are historical environments, suburban environments, modernistic environments, and also new constructions, new structures which happen now in Drohobych. And the members of our team will shortly introduce all of this for.
Yeah, so and now we are talking about historical urban structure that's only on the center, and we selected from that approaches, the good approaches that we think we can implement in the future buildings. And here we can see that the things that we like, it's human scale. Yeah, we all love this. It's homogeneous urban fabric. It's public and private dividing. It's commercial on the first floors. Also, we love when how to say it, two sides entrances, landmarks, and buildings on the red lines. And but also on the historical centers, there's a lot of bad disadvantages that we found, and this car priority is also okay, lack of trees and poor inclusivity. Yeah, and poor inclusivity. So, and we also understand that we need to rethink these things in the center and in the another city, part of city. And the next step is we implementing a good to the new city fabric. So now the Drohobych planned to build a lot of new housing, these two spaces, yeah, these two sites, and we want to implement a good approaches to this. Yeah, and it's all, I think. And the next, modernistic.
So modernistic environment has changed the traditional historical streets, and this is how it looks on zoning plan, and it have made some problems like domination of cars, high create barrier between neighborhood and it's not so many green area, and how it looks actually in Drohobych. So it's like the main road, and there are so many wide empty space, unorganization open parking, and in general it's unorganization road. And it's some few picture like cells this between. So here we have non-inclusion space, random parking, and actually there are no organized playground for children. And the human body have many types in their cells. The streets have some kind of types too. It's like the main, pedestrian, and the walking. So we want to transform in this area some kind of strips, like the main streets, residential, and make priority more for walking street to become more greenery. So it like some axonometry how it could look like as could be a shared space where more green people could walk and to make their community between their neighbor. So it kind of looks like this.
And I was like looking for the suburb environment, and especially especially these zones in the west of the city. So this is the suburb environment in Drohobych, the very typical one. And the usual streets, looks like that, but there are some goods and minus thing in these streets. They're safe, they have the vegetation, they have a human scale, and they have the diversity of architecture, but the not so good thing that they're only the connection. There's actually not a street, it's a connection. So I thought how we could change that. Yeah. And in this suburb, there is main road, main streets, and it is look now like that. And we can change it to that, make it more greenery, divide the cars and pedestrian to separate them, and improve some street infrastructure. And if talking about other type of streets, this is the residential streets. It's look like this, and it can be also improved. It can be the pavement improvement. We think that it should be the shared street, like to children, to adult one, to have their time there, but also for the cycle and cars to can be passed there. And also we thought about public space in this suburb, and we think that it can happen in the intersection of the streets, and now it is look like this, but it can look like that. So our idea that in the suburb, the neighborhood should be arranged around the streets.
Okay, once again about new development. You see on this map where new development now happens in Drohobych. Here we see how it typically looks like. So it's not about, usually it's not about the streets. Usually it is about the objects in anonymous free space, and also even large scale new developments on the big territories don't form structure, don't divide space into public and semi-public with streets. We all have like all semi-public area here. And we also tried to see what are the possibilities for the future development types. These are greenfield developments because city still has a lot of greenfield land, brownfield developments on the former industrial territories or garage cooperatives, insert buildings in historic center, densification of modernistic districts, densification of single-family housing areas, suburban areas with separate buildings or complex redevelopment of the single-family housing areas, and the new single-family duplex, detached or row housing developments can be created mostly on greenfield. Here shortly we have the maps where in Drohobych each kind of these new developments can happen. This is where greenfield development is already planned. Here is where brownfield development can happen on the former industrial land. Insert buildings in the historic center. Densification of modernistic districts. And also densification of single-family housing areas with separate insert buildings can happen here. New single-family residential development. And here we tried to show that for these different types of areas which can be developed, there are different aspects of agenda for streets, and that some aspects like connectivity or inclusivity can be similar to each type of future development, and some, like for example, preservation of historic character can be useful for example, for insert buildings in historic center, but cannot be useful for new single-family housing developments. And we write that a lot of more aspects can be added in the future, but it's good to have this agenda for streets and to know which aspects are proper for each type of development. So let's speak how we can implement these all good ideas.
So let me mention that Drohobych is a growing city, so we check what's available on the market regarding new housing. So we checked existing city zoning and we analyzed a bit the project, and what we can see is that in this scenario, we have only happy architect and happy developer. And as a result, we have no street and public spaces because potentially they could be closed for the neighbors. And our goal is to have no distinction between public and private spaces. And then we have a more optimistic scenario where we have public discussions from the early beginning, and then based on this public discussion, when we have a research, based on that, we invite urban researcher, or maybe we prepare a competition, urban competition, and based on the result of this competition or of this urban project, we could continue our work with developer, and he could invite architect or few architects, and to continue create healthy neighborhood for people in Drohobych.
Okay, we know what to do, but there are still in Ukraine some problems. For example, developers don't want red lines to be drawn on the master planning documentation. It's because we have extra distances from red lines to housing buildings. We have enormous distances from red lines to schools and kindergartens. We have issues with car parking within red lines because it is a question who owns them, city or developer, and also there is issue with tracing engineering networks. But there is a healthy alternative in Ukrainian legislation. It's regulation lines which can define streets without making problems for future development. And also there are some obstacles for proper street design. These are mentioned extra distances from red lines to housing buildings, which is not such demand for public buildings, so you can't make a row line of buildings. Also enormous distances from building facades to parking lots. It's minimum 10 meters from building facades, so like streets or have to be too wide or you have no space for parking lots in the street. And the sad is like existing rules and regulations for engineering networks simply leave no space for trees in the streets because it is forbidden to trace networks under the driveways. And finally, what Elena Chernenko told and asked for, we defined actions which can be taken and the actors who can take these actions. I'll shortly name them. First, we can investigate what qualities of existing and especially historic streets are valued by cities, celebrate street life with markets, fests and carnivals, investigate possibilities for further improvement of historic streets, being really very careful, search for opportunities to bring streets to existing modernistic districts, rayons, where when repairing, reconstructing, or densifying or replacing these rayons, redesign urban planning policies and process of new development to ensure that a decision of defining new streets and repairing or reconstruction of existing streets is not avoided, is carefully sought out, with pre-design analysis, participation, urban planning contests, test designs, and etc., and implemented properly into urban planning documentation. In master plans, zoning plans, detail plans, work on the creation of or adaptation of design guides for all kinds of streets existing in EU, and take measures to control quality of design and physicalization of streets elements while new development or reconstruction of existing streets. And also Ekim Tan, who worked with our team, they together with her colleague in Netherlands proposed maybe as an idea a web platform for urban competitions where we can have well-prepared and well-structured framework for holding urban competition, where urban data is well organized and standardized, so it is easy to work in different cities and different environments. Here is like proposed structure which may be for such a platform where different interested people can join, like designers, like residents, local government representatives and the developers. And this is like how it can look when we choose Drohobych to work on this platform. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Streets of Drohobych team, for your presentation. We have 45 seconds for some questions. I mean, if you have bigger questions, I propose you go and speak with the group afterwards. But if there's something urgent right now you would really want to say, this is the moment to do it. And if not, then once again, thank you for Streets of Drohobych.